Oklahoma. Wide skies, rolling plains, and deep beneath its surface, a buried legacy of betrayal, violence, and oil money. Osage County, once the richest per capita area in the United States, became ground zero for one of the most sinister chapters in Native American history. But while the headlines of the 1920s spoke of bombings and poisonings, today's mystery, one more recent, is quieter, but no less haunting. The Osage Reservation, home to the Osage Nation, is a land with memory. Every ridge and creek seems to whisper a story, some remembered, many silenced. In such a place, a death isn't always just a death, especially when it happens under strange circumstances, especially when no one seems to be asking the right questions. In 2015, the body of a young Osage woman, Rita Smith, was found in her trailer just outside Fairfax, Oklahoma. Officially, the cause of death was listed as accidental overdose. Unofficially, her family never believed that, and when neighbors started talking, a darker narrative emerged. Rita was 29, a single mother, known in the community as gentle, artistic, and private. She sold handmade jewelry on the weekends at powwows and worked part-time at the tribal office during the week. Her mother, Julia, said she had been clean for over a year, working hard to rebuild her life after a brief spiral into addiction following a breakup. But on a warm evening in June, she stopped answering her phone. Days passed. Her neighbors noticed her porch light was still on. Her car hadn't moved. It was her uncle who eventually forced the door open and found her inside. The scene was chilling. Rita lay on her couch, eyes closed, a faint bruise under her jawline. No signs of forced entry, no signs of a struggle. But something felt off. Her jewelry bench, usually a cluttered mess, was completely wiped clean. Her laptop was missing. Her phone, too. And a small ceremonial pouch she always carried was gone. Local police ruled it an accidental overdose based on paraphernalia found in the kitchen trash. No autopsy was performed, no toxicology report was released. Within days, the trailer was cleaned and re-rented. Case closed. But Julia didn't accept it. Neither did Rita's aunt, cousin, or the handful of neighbors who had seen suspicious activity near Rita's trailer in the days leading up to her death. A man in a white pickup truck. Loud arguments late at night. The back door that was often seen ajar. The tribe began asking questions. But jurisdictional red tape between tribal law, local law enforcement, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs meant no one wanted full responsibility or accountability. And so Rita Smith's case quietly vanished from official record. But not from the hearts of those who knew her. They believe something happened. Something more than an overdose. And if history has taught us anything, it's that sometimes the past finds a way to repeat itself. Months passed. But Rita's mother, Julia, refused to move on. Armed with a folder of handwritten notes and faded photographs, she went door to door, interviewing neighbors, recording conversations, even confronting people she believed had seen more than they were admitting. What she uncovered wasn't proof, but it was something more powerful. Patterns. Rita wasn't the first young woman to die mysteriously on the reservation. In fact, since 2000, at least 5 Native women under the age of 35 had died under similarly vague or suspicious circumstances in Osage County. Causes of death ranged from natural causes to suspected overdose, yet in each case, families disagreed with the conclusions. One woman was found in a field. Another disappeared after leaving a casino. A third was discovered in a burning car. Her death ruled accidental, despite an open bottle of lighter fluid found nearby. Julia began working with a tribal investigator, John Standing Bear, a retired Bureau of Indian Affairs officer who now ran a volunteer watchdog group. He confirmed what she feared. Jurisdictional confusion often allowed cases to fall through the cracks. On tribal land, depending on the crime, the case could fall under the authority of the tribe, the local sheriff, the state police, or the federal government, each pointing fingers, each deferring to the other, and in the void, truth disappeared. But John found something strange. Rita's phone had pinged one final time after her supposed time of death. The signal came from a cell tower 15 miles outside of Fairfax, near the Arkansas River. But no follow-up was ever made, no warrant, no trace of who had it. The deeper they looked, the more the cracks widened. A neighbor admitted off the record that Rita had been receiving threatening messages from an ex-boyfriend, a man who had ties to a meth-dealing ring operating near the county border. Another whispered that a sheriff's deputy may have warned Rita to stop asking questions about tribal funding mismanagement, a claim that, while unverified, aligned with other rumors in the area. And the white pickup truck? No license plate was ever recorded. But multiple neighbors remembered it circling the neighborhood the week Rita died. The question wasn't just who killed Rita, it became, why did no one even try to find out? By 2017, Julia had compiled everything she could. Her notes now filled 3 binders. Her voice, once dismissed, began to gather attention. A local investigative reporter from Tulsa, Angie Keller, agreed to look into the case. Within weeks, Angie uncovered a disturbing pattern. Nearly all the cases Julia flagged involved young Native women, all ruled accidental, all closed prematurely. Angie filed FOIA requests. Most were denied. She spoke to tribal liaisons. Many refused to go on record. But one former BIA employee confirmed something chilling. Missing and murdered Indigenous women cases are chronically underfunded and understaffed, often deprioritized due to low solvability. The more Angie reported, the more resistance she met. Editors pulled her story, citing, quote, lack of confirmation. A source backed out after a visit from local law enforcement. Julia began receiving anonymous phone calls at night. Just breathing, no words. Yet despite the fear, the whispers began to grow. Other families reached out to Julia. They too had lost daughters, sisters, cousins. They too had heard the same explanations, the same dismissal, the same silence. In a reservation where stories pass by firelight and memory is stronger than paperwork, the community began to reclaim Rita's story, not as an isolated tragedy, but part of something larger. Julia spoke at a vigil in 2018. Over 200 people showed up. Some brought candles, others brought photos, some just stood and wept. For Rita, for all of them. Silence, after all, is not just absence. It is protection. It shields the guilty. It buries the truth. But the voices of those left behind, they don't stay quiet forever. It's now been nearly a decade since Rita Smith was found lifeless in her trailer. Her case, like so many others involving Native women, remains closed. Without justice, without answers, without resolution. But thanks to the perseverance of her mother Julia, and the growing coalition around her, Rita's story has not faded. If anything, it's only grown louder. In 2019, Julia and other families traveled to Washington, D.C. to speak at a Senate hearing on the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women. They held up photos, read names, and shared stories, some halting with emotion, others burning with outrage. Lawmakers listened. Some cried. Promises were made. Later that year, the federal government introduced the Not Invisible Act and Savannah's Act, designed to improve communication between tribal, state, and federal authorities on missing persons cases. A task force was formed. But legislation moves slowly, and justice for families like Rita's still feels far away. In Osage County, the trailer where Rita died has since been demolished, the land sold. But in the minds of those who remember her, it remains hallowed ground. Her son, just a child when she passed, is now a teenager. He wears a necklace his mother made and sometimes attends vigils alongside his grandmother. And Julia? She's become something of a warrior, fierce, tired, but unwavering. She leads marches, she organizes community gatherings, and each time she speaks, she reminds those who listen. My daughter's name is Rita Smith. She mattered, and someone out there knows what happened to her. Sometimes, the only weapon you have is your voice. And sometimes, that's enough. If you have any information about the death of Rita Smith, or any other unresolved cases involving Indigenous women, contact the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center or the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Because silence cannot be the last word. This has been Secrets of the Reservation, the death in Osage County. Another story, still waiting to be solved. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you believe these stories need to be heard. Your support helps bring awareness to those who can no longer speak for themselves.